Hello there, and welcome to by far the most ambitious video I've ever put together that has been over a year and a half in the making. The top 100 overpowered or OP moves in Tekken history. This is going to be a massive video, so I won't waste too much time on the intro. Despite being one of the most balanced fighting game series, Tekken has had a lot of teething problems. It took 3 games before Tekken reached any semblance of competitive balance, and even then there was a staggering disparity between the top and bottom tiers, partially due to intentionally overpowered moves given to Mishimas and boss characters, and partially due to unintentionally overpowered moves that exploited oversights in the game mechanics. Even Tekken 7 has had its fair share of these issues, with great speculation on whether Bamco are just dum-dums who can't balance properly, or if some characters may have been deliberately overtuned to bolster sales or for some other nefarious purpose. Who knows, but commentary on character strengths isn't the purpose of this video. We're here to celebrate the times Tekken got a little silly and went just a little too far. There will be plenty of narrative along the way, pondering the reasonings behind making some of these moves so busted and in many cases outright broken and cheap, and reflecting on the triumphs and failures of Namco's game design. There may even be some guest appearances along the way. Now before we get started, I want to specify the ground rules that were in place while devising this list. Rule 1. A move can only appear once on the list in the game in which it was most broken. This stops moves that are typically extremely strong in every iteration, such as the Electric Wind Godfist, Hell Sweep or Waning Moon, from flooding the list. Rule 2. If multiple characters have the same move with the same properties, all those characters will share the spot. This will also produce some interesting cases where the opposite is true, which I'll explain when we get to those moves. Rule 3. Any tournament legal version of the games will be allowed. This includes Tekken 5.0, Tekken 6 Arcade Edition, and Tekken 7 Leroy Edition, Tekken 7 version 3.1.0 to be specific. This doesn't include bugged moves that were intentionally hotfixed and were never legal at a tournament major, such as Lars' buggy forward 2-1 that offered a guaranteed side entry 1 wall bounce. Rule 4. Moves will be considered based on how relatively overpowered they are in their games. In other words, each version of Tekken has its own meta, so it's not fair to judge how overpowered a move is outside of that meta. Or else the whole list will be full of Tekken 1 launches that do over 75% damage. With that being said, let's kick off the list. Can you guess which Tekken has the highest number of OP moves, and can you guess which OP move will be crowned the most overpowered move in Tekken history? Starting off our list at number 100, we have the Ogre's Azteca Shoot, a powerful, borderline seeable low that knocks down and has guaranteed follow-ups or powerful Okazeme. The Ogres are a smorgasbord of other characters' best and signature moves from the first 2 Tekkens, kind of like the New York melting pot of outcast Tekken characters, but the Ogres also had some unique dishes of their own. That makes the Azteca Shoot kind of like the chopped cheese sandwich of Ogre's moves, a grossly good and potent specialty of the Ogres. Where is the script going? This is on 100, I'm going to go insane! Anyway, this low comes out at 18 frames after you sidestep, is -17 on block, but knocks down with the opponent in face-up feet away. It can be mixed up with sidestep to tracking moves or sidestep to right splits kick, which gives guaranteed follow-ups if the opponent was crouching. The Ogres can go for guaranteed damage that can end in attack, or go for threatening mix-ups. For example, mixing up another sidestep fall with a hop kick, catching back rolls or tag outs with capital punishment, and so on. Although the move has every property you could want from a low aside from tracking, it is launch punishable and can be somewhat telegraphed, so it's not as overpowered as some other lows further up this list. True Ogre has more powerful Okazeme options, but Ancient Ogre is the more nimble sidestepper, so both Ogres share our starting spot at number 100.
Anything can happen to the man! Oh, God! Oh, come back!
I bet you didn't expect to see the bears anywhere near this list. Well, surprise, in Tekken 4, the bears were actually mid-tier, and a huge part of that was because of their just frame Summon Hunter unblockable. It has a very funky input, but that impact makes the unblockable come out as fast as the regular Salmon Hunter, which makes it borderline guaranteed after a lot of juggles like G-Clef Cannon, Demon Uppercut and more. It's really hard to react to in neutral too, especially since it can be mixed up with an Electric Wind Salmon Hunter, which is the regular Salmon Hunter inputted as fast as possible. However, despite being really silly, it has an equally silly weakness. Bears are really bad on stages with small ceilings, as the Demon Uppercut launches opponents into the ceiling and quickly back down, meaning no juggle after. But still an amazing and silly move nonetheless. Another Tekken 4 move. Before Lee had back 2 loops, the move came out on sidestep, but it was a fantastic frame trap. +2 on block at range 0 for a free mix-up and +8 on hit, which means a guaranteed jab string. Lee's 1-2-4 has a just frame but doubles the damage of the kick, meaning hitting the sidestep 2 can take a third of an opponent's life on hit. The only downside this move has is that it's a poke that comes from sidestep, which means it doesn't come out quite as fast as you'd like. It's still a nasty cheap poke that's a core part of what makes Lee an underrated, strong character in Tekken 4. Our first Tekken 7 entry on the list. The game's balancing direction started to get a little controversial when they gave almost every character a mid wall bounce, and none of those are better than Julia's, which is safe. A safe mid wall bounce that's 13 frames? Are you kidding me? I don't think I need to say any more about why this move's stupidly dumb, so let's move on. Only a few characters in Tekken 2 had parries, specifically Jin, Paul, Nina, Anna and Wang. Fun fact, the female characters can parry sword attacks in Tekken 2 but the males can't. What makes parries in Tekken 2 so strong is the absence of chickening, meaning parries are extremely strong at countering predictable offense. In fact, they were so strong, but Namco introduced chickening in Tekken 3 to encourage offensive and faster paced play. And it's not like they'd make universal high and mid parries that couldn't be chickened in later games, right? Lei is not the character you'd usually think of when you think of OP moves, but he does have a few nasty tools in some of the Tekkens. And in the latest season pass, Namco gave him a real doozy. His Snake 4-1 is a low high that comes out at 15 frames and is +4 on hit. It leads to Tiger Stance, which has a 15 frame hit confirmable mid launcher and a 15 frame low launcher, which means this low has a guaranteed mix up on hit. Not only that, Lei's 1-1 jab punish can transition to Snake and is +5 on hit. So his jab punish leads to a mix up, and the low from that mix up leads to a launching mix up. Lei can tumble players into a vortex so easily in Season 4, and his new Snake Low is the anchor of his threats. The newest character to Tekken 7, although Lydia isn't quite the same league of busted ass DLC characters like Geese, Leroy and fucking run before her, she still has more than her fair share of BS. The strongest move Lydia has access to is her Rage Drive, a powerful advancing Oki tool that launches on hit and gives a guaranteed mix-up on block. Lydia's stance mix-ups are about conditioning. Scare the opponent into standing still, but you can switch to her secondary, deadlier stances like Heaven and Earth, which house her most damaging options like the high that's +14 on block, the stagger low that's a counter hit launcher, and the mid launcher but at least a half-life juggles in the open. The only reason this move isn't higher up on the list is because there are some counters to her mix-ups, such as duck jabs, power crushes, or jumping backwards, that haven't been fully explored yet. Still, it's an extremely powerful force mix-up that basically means Lydia always has a way to come back in a round. I couldn't not include a touch of death counter hit low on here. Just imagine being in the arcades in the 90s, destroying people left and right with the Tekken knowledge you've accumulated over days of playtime, looking at and learning every character's move list, and even making up some juggles yourself, only for some shit-eating nerdy little kid to hit you with a counter hit stagger kick and kill you with it because he saw it on the internet. Honestly, just imagine being a Tekken 2 tournament player somewhere like Japan or California or London. Tekken 2 must be the most wretched tournament game ever. I'm glad I grew up with Tekken 2 as a kid mashing buttons and not as a competitor, because shit like the octopus stretch would make me pick up Street Fighter Alpha 2 instead. It's not even a good move, it's super punishable on block and even on regular hit, but it's a perfect example that showcases how dumb the early Tekkens are.
He did the 4th hit. The AI actually just did the 4th hit of the octopus stretch, whatever it's called. The AI actually did it. That wasn't even a counter hit. I didn't press shit.
Back with the Ogres, this time specifically True Ogre. While Ogre is typically considered the better of the two Ogres due to, well, not being stupidly fat, True Ogre makes up for this with unique beastly moves, and the best of these are his horns, a safe mid-ground hitting launcher with no downsides. It's as simple as that. Sometimes the move's OP not because it's inherently broken, but because it's fundamentally strong. It's not just a launcher, it's a safe Oki option and combo filler that's very high damage. It has high crush frames, and has a good amount of pushback too. The only slight downside I can think of is that it's a little slow in the most fast-paced Tekken of the series, but aside from that, it's an extremely solid and extremely abusable move in its utility. Oh god, this move. This fucking low. This is an 18 frame low that transitions into Xiaoyu's back turn stance. It's -8 on block, Lean has a parry that has 1 frame activation, it's +5 on hit, and +18 with guard options on counter hit. In other words, it's borderline unpunishable and has a free mix up on hit. When Lean's in rage, she can mix up with her RDS4 mid launcher or her safe low rage drive after down back 2 on hit, which is as good as a 1-button coin toss to make a comeback in any Tekken 7 round. It's a stupid low skill move, it's OP, and it more than deserves its spot on this list. You know that really annoying full crouch low sweep Heihachi has? Well, in Tekken 5, it was a launcher. The juggle after was really tight, but it was a launcher. That's why it's on this list. Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection. This game is considered to be the most balanced game in this series, but it still has its fair share of hidden cheapness. This was the last Tekken to feature the just frame hell sweeps. Usually, if a hell sweep only lands on shallow hit, it doesn't trip the opponent and any follow-ups are cancelled. But by inputting the next move in a string at the same time as the hell sweep makes contact with the opponent in its last active frame, which can only happen on shallow hit, the follow-up is executed and it hits as a natural combo. How is this OP? Let's ask a friend.
You could always do the just frame hell sweep, and it was going to do more damage regardless. Okay, so if I do crouch dash 4-1, and if I do the just frame, it'll do an additional like 2 points of damage. But the real magic is when you did crouch dash 4-4 clean hit mid screen, and then you could do dash electric into back 2-4 delayed 1. You get the run-up Oki because you finish the combo with back 2-4-1 afterwards. So that was kind of insane, but that was sort of impractical to use. That's not the reason why I think this move should be in the top 100. The reason I think the move should be in the top 100 was its wall applications. So what people don't seem to understand is that Kazuya in wall was fucking beast. Okay, so Kazuya had a down forward 2 that if it was spaced properly, it was -4. So you could throw that out in the wall and not be afraid of getting punished. If it hit on counter hit, you did 1+2 afterwards, dash down forward 2, whatever. He was bullshit. But the main tools that you had were forward 4, God Fist. Those two would freeze people from playing because down forward 2 was so good and so risk-free that you didn't want to press a button. So here's where those two things come into play. If you blocked electric and forward 4, it would automatically space you to the distance where the first hit of crouch dash 4 on the just frame wouldn't trip. So what happens is that you get crouch dash 4, just frame 1, and you just got a low hitting wall splat. So basically, you take a character that already has all this bullshit, and you give them a war drum like wall splat on the wall. It's kind of absurd. And if you at certain angles, you would get insane amounts of damage. You would do like a crouch dash 4-1 into sidestep right, forward 3-1-4. The forward gave you 1 extra point of damage. You could do back 3-1-4-1 for damage, which did a shit ton. So a lot of people that played me when I was playing Kaz in my prime know that that's something that they had to watch out for because I was the only one doing it. But just the sheer amount of damage potential that it had, along with the fact that Kaz had safe wall splatting mids and up forward 3, which he still has, made him such a scary corner character, like such a scary wall character, that it deserves a place in this top 100 based on theory of.
The first Tekken 3 move on the list. Tekken 3 doesn't have a lot of broken moves that aren't more useful or more broken in tag, but one of the few moves that Namco decided was a little too OP was King's 2-1 cross uppercut. Why? It's plus 14 on hit. 2-1 can be looped twice before the opponent is pushed out of range, at which point you can finish with a nice mid kick. That means King's jab punish does almost 50% life, or he can do a 2-1 into a guaranteed throw mix-up with no chance to backdash or duck. To be fair, this was the only move that made King relevant in Tekken 3 compared to characters like Jin, Ogre, Xiaoyu and Law, but man was it broken. Okay, so you know how running slash kicks give a load of plus frames on block? Well, imagine if it had a follow-up that was guaranteed on block. That'd be pretty broken, right? Well, put that in a game where nobody has lateral movement. That's Heihachi's Tekken 1 Hell Axel. Another silly move in a very silly game. The Ogres had a variety of nasty, powerful and blockable moves, and I don't just mean powerful in the pure damage sense, I mean in their utility too. The Ogre's best unblockable is their deadly slash, and advancing the high unblockable that's also a launcher. At 25 frames the move is just about reactable, and it's a powerful Oki tool. It can also be buffered on a tag in to make it hard as heck to react to, and can even be a whiff punisher. Just one of the many reasons Ogres are one of the strongest, most accessible teams in Tag 1. Some people have good magic 4s. And then there's Steve, the boxer. Steve's back 1 quick hook is a 13 frame high counter hit launcher that has an exceptional hitbox and is known for its amazing whiff recovery. In Tekken 6 however, back 1 alone just wasn't enough for OP Steve. No, Steve had a string off of his back 1.
Ooh, Steve's back 1-2-1. It's just like Steve's back 1 down 2-1 now. But instead of just giving you that double backflip animation that it does on hit, it was kind of like a Steve Junkyard. That's kind of what the nickname was, Steve Junkyard. It came out of Steve's back 1. Second hit was still low, but if that low counter hit, it launched just like Duck 1 and it led into a ton of damage.
Which means it's a high counter hit launcher with a safe, low counter hit launcher follow-up. Yeah, the mid's -9, so if you want to punish Steve from doing this, you have to low parry.
But the weaknesses that it has is like the same weaknesses that all lows have. You can low parry the second hit, but low parry in that game, you didn't get your combo extender like bound in that game. It put you in instant bound, so it wasn't the end of the world.
This is toxic as fuck because it discourages you from taking your turn after Steve blocks or whiffs a back 1 because you're scared of the low.
In neutral as well, because back 1 in Tekken 6 BR was so hard to whiff punish because of his flicker safety in that game. I think they buffed his flicker safety from 6.0 even more in Bloodline Rebellion, aka Tekken 6 console version, so that it was so hard to whiff punish. It was so hard to whiff punish back 1, even harder than it is now. So sometimes in neutral, Steve players would even throw out back 1 intentionally, trying to get you to bait you to whiff punish the back 1, and then the 2 will counter hit you.
And to top it all off, back 1-2 is natural, and if Steve does land a counter hit back 1-2-1, works as an easy start to his juggle. This move perfectly illustrates just how strong Steve was in Tekken 6.
But you know, I found this out by playing against Ryan Hart, when he came out to a Wednesday Night Fights one time here in Cali. He was the only one that did this to me ever. And I still remember it to this day. I did back 1-2-1 on him, and he just jumped over. He jumped over the 2, and then he got my back, and I was like, okay, that was cool. I've never seen that before.
Oh my god. Buck's freaking punch parry.
The kick parry looks pretty cool. It's just a throw that deals a decent chunk of damage. But the punch parry, say goodbye to 50%, or if fucking Meacher will, and he will because he's fucking wrong, then say goodbye to maybe 60% or even over 75% of your health bar in Rage. Oh, and it was minus 13 on block in Season 3. The only way to really punish him for committing to the punch parry was by sidestepping it, and having to alter your entire playstyle around one move because it's essentially a win button is toxic, and it lets fucking Mum enforce even more crazy strong conditioning and mind games. Thank God it got nerfed in Season 4. Ugh, Hwoarang's fucking down 3-4. This might be the most toxic low in present day Tekken. This is an unseeable, low-high, natural combo that gives a ridiculous mix-up on hit and is only minus 11 on block.
Okay, let's break this move's toxicity down into sections.
If you get hit by the move, you're mixed up between Hwoarang's low sweep, or any manner of mid between a safe smaller mid or a launchy mid that's only minus 12. If Hwoarang wants to though, he can swap legs from right to left flamingo and try to put you in the blender again, which is how Hwoarang can mix even the grisliest veterans up for an entire round. If a player predicts Hwoarang will transition legs, they can try to launch, but that loses to any of Hwoarang's immediate mixed up options. And that safe mid, yeah, it's a counter hit launcher, so Hwoarang doesn't risk anything while you do. So what if you manage to block down 2-4? Well, Hwoarang has two options to try to prevent your punish. You can do an instant right flamingo kick string that's a high counter hit launcher, or go for a power crush that's a minus 12 mid. Both of these options lose to moves that are up to 14 or so frames, but that really limits your punish potential. What you can do is punish with a somewhat fast full crouch move if it's a high crush, as Hwoarang can't block in right flamingo, so you can get decent damage that way. But it's unnecessarily convoluted, and of course there's many characters who just can't do this and can't get a great punish. In other words, make sure you low parry this one.
Paul Phoenix's first entry on the list, and spoiler alert, not the last, he's kinda beefy. Surprisingly though, Paul wasn't always a top tier character. Well, outside of...
Paul had always been a mid-tier staple until Tekken 7, and in Season 3 Paul shot to the top of the tiering run, and that's because they decided to beef up his damage to unreasonable levels. How did they do that? They added a backsway feature to his 3-2 string. That doesn't sound too overpowered in and of itself until you realise that it adds a crazy amount of accessibility to his juggles that he didn't have before. It also boosts the damage of his wall staple, and against bigs, a wall splat can end the round. Just don't get launched, smile. Tekken in the olden days was kind of like the Wild West. Almost every character had moves that in some way fundamentally broke the laws of Tekken, not that there were many laws to begin with. 8-frame drabs, strings of guaranteed follow-ups, ridiculous setups. It wasn't really until Tekken 6 that all these outlaw moves got cleaned up and some real laws were enforced. Well, until some other characters from other towns showed up, but back on topic. The perfect example of a move that breaks the fundamental laws of Tekken is Nina's Sidestep 1. It's supposed to be one of those moves that sets up her sway mix-ups from her chain throws to her plus unblocked mid to a fast slow that continues the offense on hit. You get the idea. So how does this move break the laws of Tekken? Well, a mix-up isn't really a mix-up when one of the options is guaranteed. Sorry, did I say guaranteed? I meant guaranteed on block. Yeah, normally moves that are guaranteed on block only happen in Tekken when the initial move is usually very slow, a high and a duckable string, or is blocked shallow. But Nina's Sidestep 1 is really fast, and with Nina's Sway Cancel, she's one of the few characters of exceptional movement.
Nina was one of the only characters with both exceptional movement and exceptional offense. Namco wasn't great at fundamental game design back then. Shame Leon Massey wasn't making videos in the 2000s to teach him a thing or two.
Let's come back to Tekken 4. We're just hitting the tip of the iceberg of this game. No, not the iceberg. Heihachi was respectably strong in Tekken 4, and while he wasn't straight up broken like some characters, he had his fair share of BS. His down 1 hammer fist was a great poke and juggle ender. It knocked down on counter hit too, which let you hit a second down 1 and even a third guaranteed. Let me explain. When my hammer fist hits an airborne opponent, it sticks them to the ground and they have to take another guaranteed hammer fist on the ground that pushes them away so they can get up. If they try to get up early, hammer fist will hit them airborne and stick them back down again. However, this is where the mix-up comes in. If a Heihachi player predicts they'll stay on the ground, they can get greedy and go for extra damage with a stomp. A really gross mix-up that Heihachi gets at the end of practically every juggle. The mighty jackhammer. An incredibly oppressive advancing elbow that almost single-handedly made Jack a top 5 or even top 3 character at Tekken 7's launch. It was so strong initially because it had excellent tracking. This move just completely shut players out from getting in against Jack and forced the mid-range. It was so hard to work around that Namco massively weakened its tracking in Season 2. But just recently, Jack got almost all of its old tracking on the move back. So we'll see if that translates into a Jack resurgence. Do I even need to explain why this throw is on here? In Season 3, it had a guaranteed follow-up. And not just any guaranteed follow-up, a flip over where you either have to quick tech into a running 3 that's +6 on block, or stay on the ground and risk getting hit by a plasma blade that flips you over again and puts you back in the same mix-up. Stupidly toxic, I myself have literally lost more than one tournament set because the guaranteed follow-up killed me. Shoutouts to Eddie. Thank Harada, it finally got reverted in Season 4. Back to the original Tekken. Nina and Anna's trooper roll was pretty dumb because it had so many plus frames you could get a guaranteed gapped up kick on block. It's a very slow move and it can be floated on reaction, but with no lateral movement it's a nasty Okazeme option. Remember what I said about Horain's roll and choke being OP because it had a guaranteed follow-up? Well, that wasn't nearly as bad as Devil Jin's End of Dreams from Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection. This throw is one of the reasons Devil Jin was the king of Dark Resurrection. And speaking of...
So they're like, well, he's gonna be the best character in the game, so what kind of bullshit ass thing could we add? So they give him a 10 frame grab that does 40 damage, and then he had guaranteed follow-ups and mix-ups afterwards. Most people didn't know that the thing about grabs, I think grabs having the same priority in terms of beating out normals and frame advantage, I think that's something that may have started out in either 5.1 or DR, I'm not entirely too sure. But you could do stuff like forward 1 with Devil Jin, forward 1 gave +3, so, but you could do forward 1 into 10 frame grab, if it hit, you got 40%. Because crouch dash for the hell sweep and the hell sweep was guaranteed afterwards, so you just did hell sweep and the follow-up in case they tried and rolled. If they stayed on the ground, it was 58 damage. If they tried rolling or doing anything after, it was 59. Combine that with the mobility of wave dash, and you're just like, you do wave dash, wave dash, wave dash, wave dash, EOD, you're like, fuck, I can't really see when the input's coming out because he's just like going into crouch and I don't know what's going on. So it was extremely powerful. And then you have stuff like it would hit. If you would hit it near a wall, hell sweep into follow-up was 100% guaranteed. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and stay on the ground. If you stayed on the ground, the hell sweep would hit you clean on the ground, and then the follow-up would hit, so you actually took more damage that way. The idea was always pretty much just do crouch dash 4-4, but if the read was absolutely on, you would just do crouch, just a small crouch dash into wall standing 4, and then you did dash into 3-ring circus, down forward 1-2, forward, which is the same, what do you call it? The same Oki that he gets off the down forward 1-2, which pretty much is, it adds an additional like 20-something% to the combo. It was dumb. It was absolutely dumb. In short, EOD was a dumb move, and I am glad they put it on because it carried me all the way to EVO Grand Finals.
That's it, dude. That's fucking it.
Okay guys, we're a quarter of a way through, so I think this is a good time for our first break. Stretch your legs, get a refill, save a vid to your watch later, and come back another day. Or just keep going if you haven't got enough yet. No, possibly. Personally, my throat's been feeling a bit hoarse doing all this recording, so I'm just gonna let somebody else take over for a bit. Be back.
Out of all the Steve moves on this list, you might not have expected his 1-2-1 from Tekken 4 to be a candidate. But let me tell you why this move was dumber than a dummy lifting dumbbells while riding Dumbo to full Dumbo. This is an 8-frame jab string that's a natural counter-hit combo, is -2 on block, -1 on hit, and can be cancelled to flicker or weave. I'm not going to break down why that's a ridiculously strong move, but let's just go over some of the common options. You can weave, duck jab, or sidestep to beat jab attempts. You can finish the string with a mid or low to beat any buttons. And the options that would beat weaving or sidestepping are so slow that they'd usually lose to another 1-2-1. And if the opponent doesn't have 8-frame jabs too, Steve can just do 1-2-1 on block into 1-2-1 and trade anyway, or 1-2-1 on hit into 1-2-1 beats everything except ducking. This move is the glue that everything else in Steve's offense stems from. His quick hook counter-hit launch, threatening to finish strings, his sidestep, his weave, his duck jab, his throw game. Steve is an offensive nightmare in Tekken 4 due to the nerfed movement, and 1-2-1 is the fastest, scariest option, and puts the opponent into the blender even on block.
You thought Steve's back 1-2-1 was a stupid counter hit tool in Tekken 6? It wasn't even the best. That dubious honour belongs to Law's Magic 4, which pretty much single-handedly made him a top tier in this game. Why is it so strong? Well, 4-3 is an 11-frame counter hit launcher, it jails, and the frame advantage is silly. It's +7 on block when you transition to DSS, and it's +16 force guard on regular hit, which means all the opponent can do is block for 16 frames. In other words, if Law does this move, he gets a mix-up between DSS forward 4-3, which is a counter hit launching low, any DSS mid of his choice, his DSS auto punch parry, and his DSS 2-throw. The only thing that makes this move even remotely counterable is that it can be stepped and it can be ducked. But normally moves that are +7 on block are slower, interruptible moves, not Magic Force. Be grateful this move doesn't jail in the present day. Tag 2 Jinpachi. Tag 2 fucking Jinpachi. In a game as vicious and hard-hitting as Tag 2, Jinpachi had some of the strongest, easiest buttons to press in the game. Out of those strongest was down forward 1+2. This is an advancing, tracking, safe mid-launcher with pushback. It even has some high crush frames, just in case it wasn't retarded enough. Its only real weakness is that the juggle after is a direct bound, which means the follow-up damage takes the right partner or the right stage conditions to squeeze out. But really, this is just an incredible button to press and made you very, very scared to duck against this character. Heihachi's down forward 1-2 in Tekken 5 DR is a 13-frame standing launcher. He's had a 13-frame standing launch from Tekken 1 through to DR, but he's the only character with a 1-button 13-frame standing launcher in DR, and it's so easy to throw out.
I mean, what did it do? You know, Heihachi, Twin Piston, top 2 character in that game, probably next to Devil Jin. And there was good reason for it, because low parry in that game, you get a full standing launcher, and his was so easy. The most common down jab, if you low parry it, I think Devil Jin only got up forward 4. The other ones he could get can or something like that, if I remember correctly. But Heihachi, nah, don't even worry about it. You know, and I was also a Steve player at the time in DR, and Sonic Fang was -13. Duck 2 was -13, but all of those moves had a little bit of pushback, but it didn't matter against Heihachi. So, and my mentor at the time, Filthy Rich, was a top 8 Evo placer, and he was a Heihachi main. So he really instilled the fear of Twin Pistons into me, you know. And it's also such a good tool, right? 13 frame, mid, normal hit launcher that gave him a great BNB into down 1 Oki. And then the Oki was messed up too because it was down 1, hold down, dash electric. If you try to stand up or roll back, the dash electric will clip you there, and then down 1 again, and then it's reset all over again. Same scenario. If you stay down 4, does a chunk. It did so much. Even like generic stuff like get up 4, twin pistons. Get up 3. Oh, it's a low. Yeah, you can low block, crouch cancel twin pistons. But most of the time, if it's a low, just keep it simple. If you're a hay player, anytime you're thinking it's a low, just low parry twin pistons. Anytime you're having trouble with anything, just twin pistons. It was so good. You whip a jab in neutral, or you sidestep a poke in neutral, twin pistons. It was so good. Yeah, it's so good, but also, of course there is risk to it. It is launch punishable, but man, you only use that move when you know it's gonna hit as a punish or a whiff punish or a low parry punish. It was disgusting, and I'm glad that it's gone.
Good God. And is up back 3 from Tekken 5 DR. This is the ultimate evasive move. A 13 frame mid poke that's -10 on block. I don't know about you, but assuming your character's arms are too short to box with God, they're probably not jab punishing this move either. It's the ultimate escape tool and round ender, and it's also great at catching opponents unawares who try to punish and end up getting whiff punished themselves. The ultimate cheese. In Season 4, Namco nerfed wall damage across the board. However, this had the unintended side effect of making wall juggles that include unscaled hits deal even more damage in comparison to other characters' wall juggles. The biggest and most obvious offender is Bob's wall ender. No, I don't care that sometimes if you get a perfect angle and you sidewall in the correct direction and you're parallel to the bombs and souk, that you can sometimes escape the ender. It does way too much damage, and Namco need to fix unscaled wall hits to be in line with other wall juggles. Pre-nerf Leroy. We're finally here. Most Tekken players seem to have mentally repressed the trauma Leroy Smith imposed on the community when he released, but spoiler alert, you'll be seeing him pop up many times in this list. His first move on the list is his jolly old cane, of course. A one-time move during the whole game. It did everything. Full launch, juggle end of it, give a grounded follow-up after, or until it got nerfed you could just throw it out and it'd be plus 1,000,000 if it was blocked. It doesn't matter if you could only press Kane once in the game, it was an instant situation upgrade button no matter when you pressed it. And buttons like that should never ever exist in fighting games without some kind of risk attached. Poor game design on Namco's part, to say the least. Back to Tekken 2. Lei isn't traditionally known as an OP character, as I mentioned before, but Razor Rush really was broken in Tekken 2. Why? Well, for starters, it was a natural combo. The entire thing. Also, the low tripped on regular hit, and the mid knocked down on regular hit. Both of them had guaranteed follow-ups. And even if you blocked Razor Rush, you had to guess between the mid and the low. Low risk, high reward, 50-50 in shoes. In any other Tekken, move like this would automatically make you S tier. But Tekken 2, Lei was average. You'll see how dumb Tekken 2 can really get in the last 2/3 of this list. Or how about right now? Sticking with Tekken 2, we have Kazuya's Demon Cut Punch. There's one very simple reason this is on the list. If it connects as a clean hit, you're dead. DED, dead. It is unsafe and not as easy to land as a Wind God Fist or Twin Pistons, but one good duck or read is all you need. I'm not going to say anymore, I'll let the pretty juggle speak for itself. Next, we have the only Rager on this list. Can you guess whose it is based on that alone? Who has a rage art that's so much stronger and cheaper than anybody else's? Well, if you guess Paul, you're 100% right. This guy has a cancelable freaking rage art that deals unscaled damage, flings the opponent high into the air and lets them start or continue a juggle without affecting the scaling. It's essentially a rage mechanic that's unique to Paul and gives him access to ludicrous amounts of damage that no other character in the game has access to. I don't understand the logic, but Paul is the damage man, I suppose.
Steve's down forward 2 used to be a safe, homing, mid-count hit launcher that's still incredibly hard to whiff punish properly for some characters due to the duck cancel.
Steve can basically just use it at the start of a round sometimes. Sometimes it'll launch, sometimes it'll get blocked. Probably won't be whiff punished because he's Steve!
Tekken 7 Steve, Season 2 down forward 2, and Season 1 too, they're the same, right? But it was so good. It was like my dream come true. So you could do down forward 2 duck cancel, and you wanted to do duck anyways afterwards because you got duck 1 as a follow-up. So you pretty much got the same bread and butter as your counter hit back 1 or anything else that starts with duck 1 as the first hit of the combo. So, and that as a Steve player, your eyes just, you know, glow and start glistening, and you got that glimmer of hope. You're just like, dang. And the craziest part about that move too was that in certain matchups, like Mishima fights, was free to, like almost free to whiff down forward to duck cancel, because what are they going to do? Electric punish me while I'm duck canceling and crouch?
Namco have nerfed this move twice since, once to make the full conversion into a combo extremely difficult, and another to nerf the tracking. But in its heyday, this was a stupidly OP move.
Hey, do you know which top tier Tekken 2 character we haven't talked about on the list yet? Not Kazuya, not Armor King, that's right, goddamn Bruce Irvin. This guy has some busted as hell moves like his Gatling combination. This move is a mid-low string. The 3 mids are safe and natural on counter hit, making it a safe counter hit launcher that leads to a 90% damage juggle. And if that wasn't enough, it also has a low extension that is safe and is a launcher in and of itself. The mid string is the main reason this move is on the list though. It's a completely safe mid near touch of death with a fat hitbox that makes Bruce near impossible to approach lest your health bar be shredded to pieces. The opponent can't really take their turn against this move either because they have to block low just in case it comes out, at which point they've lost their advantage and Bruce can do whatever he wants. Bruce is in control of the neutral against 100% of the cast in Tekken 2, which is a feat that no other character has ever replicated since. Oh yeah, you know this bad boy was gonna be on here. Bruce's Mach 2 is one of the most oppressive moves in Tekken. A powerful mid that gave a guaranteed follow-up on normal hit and a full combo on counter hit. A fan favourite, one of the few OP moves most people didn't actually mind because of how sick it was.
It was a safe, on block, 17 frame mid. And if you did crouch dash 3 at its fastest afterward, if it hits, but if you try to reduce grounded damage by getting up or rolling back, he had down 3-4, which was still guaranteed anyways. But if you tried to move, quick rise or back roll, down 3-4 will float you for a combo. So back 2 becomes a normal hit launcher basically. And if it was counter hit, it's a counter hit launcher for your entire life bar. Yeah, it was disgusting, man. So it's like, that was the Bruce move. And he could go for open ground, reset with either down 3-4 again after 3-2 forward ones, or he could go for unblockable, which was a tech trap both ways. Oh my god. Like, honestly, if Bruce got one back 2 into that 3-4 flow and you guessed wrong on Oki 2 times, you're dead. Or like 1 time even, you could be dead. And just that fear of back 2, just using it as a poke at any time, and the range is fantastic as well. It's so solid. So solid.
In Tekken 7, every power crush has armor frames. this armor powers through highs and mids but loses to lows and throws. There's one exception to this property, Bob's forward 1+2. It's extremely fast at 15 frames, meaning it beats sequences that other armor moves can't. And not only that, but it has high crush frames when Bob leans his head back. Doesn't sound like a problem when it powers through highs anyway, right? Well, don't forget that throws are high too. So this move beats one of the two options that power crushes are designed to lose to. It's stupidly broken and stupidly bad game design. Bob isn't playing Tekken 7 at this point, he's playing the Limbo minigame from Mario Party. Heihachi's forward 2 has been a frustrating move since Tekken's inception. A powerful mid-launcher that's very unsafe but has a lot of pushback which frustrates punish attempts and makes punish options limited and inconsistent. This was at its worst in Tekken 2, where the pushback was immense and the damage was at its highest in comparison to other characters. Immensely high risk-reward. A trend you're going to notice more and more as we go further down the list. Remember when I was talking about Steve's 1-2-1 in Tekken 4 just a few entries ago, and how especially oppressive such a strong jab stream was in the movement like in Tekken 4? Well, the game's number 1 has a jab stream that even beats Steve. Jin's 2-1 is a high mid 10 frame jab string that is +1 on block, +9 on hit, and if a second hit connects as a counter hit, it's +10, which means Jin's doing 2-4 to a guaranteed down 4 after. 2-1, 2-1-4, 1-2-3 and more are the bread and butter of Jin's offense because of how ridiculously oppressive they are. Characters with 8 frame jabs like Steve, Nina and Paul perform the best against this kind of pressure, but any character with 10 frame jabs other than Jin himself is going to really struggle to stop Jin from dominating the game's tempo. Remember when Akuma got mix-ups out of his while standing 2 on block? I mean, he still kinda does, but the only way you can make a move safe is by burning meter with a Go Xiaoyu FADC. In the past though, because Shakinetsu was safe, Akuma's opponent had to guess the punish. Is he going to cover his base with his Shakinets? Step left and with punish. Is he going to try to escape with Demon Flip? Float. Is he going to do while standing 2 on its own? Block punish. Because the Shakinetsu was safe, you had to step it left in order to punish, and if you guessed wrong, you're getting a fireball to your face, or you miss your window to punish and potentially might be in a Demon Flip mix-up. It was incredibly toxic. The more options Akuma presented in a match, the more puzzling it gets in the clutch, and the harder it gets to make a conscious decision as your mind is in a battle between your immediate reaction and the conscious decision you're trying to reach in time. In other words, it's a mindfuck to try to punish a while-standing launcher. Not good game design. Now it's a little better, as you can interrupt the while-standing 2 to Shakinets with a move that's up to 12 frames, meaning some characters even get option selects, but the Akuma players really did get away with some BS mix-ups. Talking about having so many options to consider that it becomes a mindfuck, is the character whose entire game design is based on that concept. Frickin' flippin' flippity floppity fast or lassie dolly mekum ram. His standing 3 is 13 frames, has an absurd amount of reach, and when the character came out, his 3-4 had a guaranteed 4-4-2-1 after that could sometimes wall splat and equal a half-life juggle or more if it's a breakable wall. And it was -12. What an absurd character. Glad that shit got nerfed. Fuck players, you all Kumas.
Steve back 1 in 5.0 was busted as shit. And I'll tell you why. So I still to this day, back 1 obviously is like the picture perfect poster for the counter hit combo starter button because it goes into flicker and it's really hard to punish. So back in 5.0, the transition to flicker was pretty much instant. Okay, and basically the moment that he already whiffed the back one, that's it. You weren't able to actually punish it unless you were doing like a low. Let's start off with that. Second, it was his actual 13 frame punisher. He had a just frame, which was back one, and while you're holding back, you press 2, which gives him the right straight punch, and it was a natural combo. And you could get down 1+2, the little ground punch, guaranteed afterwards every single time. You could reduce the damage, but you could then also get picked up by down 2-1-2 into more damage bullshit, which pretty much is Steve's sauce in a nutshell. Everything's going to lead to something, and everything's going to be high damage. But one more thing. So we all know exactly how hard it was already to deal with Steve, because he also had 1-2-1 into instant albatross too. And since the flicker transitions were really fast, you didn't want to always challenge the 1-2-1 immediately, because if you got hit by the albatross 2, that was a counter hit combo afterwards. That was absolutely bonkers. So a lot of times you would end up blocking Steve's flicker stuff, and you're like, okay, so he does a flicker 1 into down 1, that gives him frame advantage. But then there's a follow-up that a lot of people didn't know. It's he does a flicker 1, and then he could do forward 1, which is something that kind of looks like an overhand left going downwards. But if you ducked the flicker 1, forward 1, if you specifically ducked the forward 1, you got the back 1 to just frame as a punish, which was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Steve should have not been deleted in that game, but I'm glad that they made him bullshit back then, because he's still bullshit to this day. So, but 5.0 was just like the benchmark base of as to how stupid it was.
Jinpachi makes his second appearance on the list. His up 4 knee had the safety of an orbital with extra speed at 18 frames. The main reason this move is so high up on the list is because it has an excellent hitbox, and it puts Jinpachi in an excellent situation on hit.
Jeez, up 4, 18 frames? 18 frames? So just 3 frames slower than a regular hop kick, but this one is -8, so safe. Knocks down, you got the free down 4 stomp afterwards, and then you get Oki because they're right there. One of the things that people still don't understand in this game, that it's not as prevalent as it was before, but if you're on the ground and you're moving, whether it be from hit stun or you're trying to actively get up, and you get hit, you stay close. But if you're prone, you're just laying there, you're not doing anything, and you get hit with a grounded attack, you get pushed further away. And if you're close to a wall, then your opponent, of course, gets pushed further away from you. With Jinpachi, his up 4, down 4, they'll just bam, you're right there. And if you're playing fast paced, like, I'm gonna get up right now you get up into, like, you know, his down back 3-1, his little hell sweep shoulder, or you get up into another up 4, another knee to the face, because it's a jumping knee too, so it's not, you can't counter it, you know, unless you've got a counter that can deal with, you know, or a counter or parry that can deal with knees, elbows, and headbutts. Like, he was going to jump and hit you with it. If they got up, instant while standing 3 would float. Yeah, and then you can just up back 1-2. And if you play too fast, now you got to play the game of, do I get up into another knee? Do I get up into this? You know, does it, like, what am I going to get up to? And it's a bad time. That's the answer for all the above. Bad time is what you're getting up into.
Man, this Bob character's been appearing in the list a lot so far. It's almost like he's an overpowered character. And he wasn't any more broken than in Tekken 6, where he had a 16 frame, mid-mid, safe, hit confirmable, wall splatting with Punisher. You've got all the time in the goddamn world to hit confirm this move. Broken. Let's quickly move on to another Bob move. Bob in Tag 2 had something very, very special. A real, genuine infinite. In the final frame of while standing 2-1's airtime, the opponent cannot tech roll, tag crash, or escape in any other way, but if they're hit during this frame, they will be refloated for a new juggle. It's not a glitch, it's a true frame perfect infinite. It's possible to set up easy consistent tag-ins off of while standing 2-1, where the other character can consistently time a hit on the opponent during this frame as they tag in, which was a lot more practical. The only reason this move isn't higher up on the list is because it's extremely impractical. It requires perfect timing and execution, and to actually kill the opponent with the infinite, it requires an infinite stage. It was never used in tournament to the best of my knowledge, but someone could have definitely learned and perfected this infinite, kind of like Ice Climber's wobbling in Melee.
That's it. Yep. Music King, he looks like he's about to cry, dude. Watching, this is the hardest part. This one. You just want it to be over.
You knew this move was going to appear sooner or later on the list. Akuma's down 3, a 14 frame low that was only -11 when blocked on its own or could easily be made safe by burning meter. And on clean hit, pain. Lots and lots of pain. Yes, you could just backdash, but you know he's gonna get you sooner or later. The main reason this move was just too strong when ported from Street Fighter to Tekken is because the damage access is too much. Yes, you can juggle in Street Fighter, but in Tekken you get the standing damage from a down 3 Fireball FADC to down 2 Shokunetsu FDC to launch, then you get a full Tekken juggle and very likely a full wall juggle and maybe Rage Art too. In my humble opinion, from the very beginning, FADC should never have given so many plus frames on hit, but Akuma could access his standing launches. Down through to Shoryuken to FADC for a juggle? Sure, that's not quite as much damage and makes a bit more sense when porting meter over to Tekken. But Akuma should never have been given so many plus frames that he could launch opponents with back 1 after an FADC on standing. It was just too much, and Akuma's ridiculously consistent tournament placements have confirmed that. A down 3 is not Akuma's cheapest move, but it's not exactly a straw man either. Tekken 5 Nina was horrifying. Not only did she have that sidestep 1 BS we talked about earlier, but she had a ton of extra overpowered moves to boot. The move we'll talk about right now is her forward 3, which is high, plus 14 on block, and it turns you to your side if you don't duck in between, which is not easy. And oh yeah, it's a normal hit launcher in this game. It's not the most broken move ever because it is duckable and punishable on reaction, but why Namco thought to give this move so many good properties is beyond me. Tekken 5 Nina, she-ho. We'll see her again later. Another Tekken 7 classic move that you knew was going to be on here. Jin's forward 4, one of the most spammable moves in existence. A ridiculously fast, safe, mid counter hit launcher with an easy pickup, stance transition if you want it, and an incredible hitbox. No downsides, near zero risk, insane reward. In Season 4 it's now a lot trickier and less consistent to get the pickup, so it's not quite as spammable as it used to be, but man, anytime you fought a Jin, it was hell to deal with this move. We're halfway through the list. Number 50 is Lei's Ha-Ha Step from Tekken Tag Tournament. And rather than tell you why this is on the list, I'm going to show you during the step break. I'm going to Ha-Ha Step away from ultra hard AI while telling you all about my Patreon. And if I mess up my inputs or get hit, I have to start over. Here we go. Okay, ultra hard, let's do it. I try to make really cool, high-quality videos on YouTube. Unfortunately, I can't make videos like this daily, even weekly, so I have to choose between quality and quantity. Anyway, I can sustainably keep making videos like this if you guys support. I try to make really cool, high-quality videos on YouTube, but unfortunately, I can't make videos like this daily, even weekly, so I have to choose between quality and quantity. But anyway, I can sustainably keep... I make really cool, high-quality videos on YouTube, but unfortunately, I can't make videos like this daily, even weekly, so I have to choose between quality. Try to make really cool, high-quality videos on YouTube. Unfortunately, I can't make videos like this daily or even... Fuck off. Trying to make really cool, high-quality videos on YouTube. Unfortunately, I can't make videos like this daily or even weekly, so I have to choose between quality and quantity. The only way I can sustainably keep making videos like this is if you guys support. on Patreon. There's a ton of Patreon bonus available in a special section of my Discord server where you can see my video progress and even discuss how many videos direction. You can watch all my videos today before anybody else. If you're part of the Patreon vote on upcoming character and Pro Tekken series, history series, and much more. So check the link in the description if you'd like to help support the stream. Thank you. Fuck. I'm calling it. I'm calling it. My fingers. I'm shaking. That's it. We're done. We're done. Comeback mechanic goes wee.
Rage Drive comes out in 21 frames, so it's even faster. Even faster. 21 frames. When blocked, you're at +7, unless like he's jab punishable if he does like the dive at your feet, where before he's like minus forever. So his Rage Drive actually has an 11 frame window. It starts at 21 and it goes all the way to 31 if I'm not mistaken. So there's an 11 frame window for this move to hit you, and you can't break it. It goes directly into the mount, and it does a chunk. I mean, it does a hell of a chunk. I mean, it's +7 on block consistently. So, and they said, well, Rage Drives, they kind of, to make them more consistent during combos, they kind of heat sink a little bit. What do you think Rage Drive for Marnik's doing? He's slightly veering course.
That obnoxious hitbox, free mix-up on block, mix-up for a chunk of damage on hit that does unscaled damage if you do it at the end of juggles. This is a fat, no-risk, high-reward move. The only weaknesses this move has are its slightly slow startup, it being punishable on shallow block, and technically you can optionally select the mix-up after, but the slightest delays ruins that attempt. People probably wouldn't think Marnik was so busted if his Rage Drive wasn't so outrageous. And we've been seeing a lot of Lei recently, haven't we? Well, this is the last time you'll be seeing Lei on this list, and for good reason. You know Lei's back turn down 1? Well, in Tekken 6 Vanilla, it was a launch or a normal hit. I don't think I need to say much more. This move almost single-handedly made Lei S tier in Vanilla T6. And then he went right back down to C tier in BR, where he belongs. Sorry Lei fans. Talking about moves that used to be normal hit launches when they had no right to be, Brian's back 1 elbow in Tekken 5 had all of the plus frames that it's always had, but in Tekken 5 it was a powerful normal hit launcher that led to over 40% damage. Brutal and brutally unfair. And if he gets you to a wall, well, we'll get to that later. Shaheen's 4-1. The blandest, most fundamental character Namco had probably ever invented, and when people first saw footage of Shaheen in Tekken 7 arcades, they saw Shaheen using 4-1. Why? 12 frame high jailing counter hit launcher that's only -2 on block. Hold that shit. One of the main reasons Law was a contender for Tekken 3's top 5 is because of his standing 3-4. What's so special about it? It's a 14 frame punisher with great range that does over 50% damage. You get hit by 2 of these, you are dead, mate. What's an anagram of mate? Meat. You're dead meat too, mate. 2 little whiffs or unsafe moves or just bad timing on a read or anything else, there goes the round. Sticking with Tekken 3 and another character who's in the top 5 largely because of one move, we have Ling Xiaoyu. While standing 2 is a 13 frame safe crouch launcher. I don't think I need to explain much more than that. The damage is ridiculous, it has great setups thanks to the nosebleed stun system in Tekken 3, and it has a great hitbox and with recovery frames. The only reason it's not higher is because the juggles on normal hit and counter hit are slightly different, and it's not always easy to tell how the launcher lands. Still, this is an absurdly powerful tool that allows Xiaoyu to capitalize on her amazing evasiveness. The fuck is back. Now we're getting to the real lumpy bits of this character.
Listen, my man just wanted to have his own bar that he could do a YouTube show out of, and he's got that now. Now poor Michael Murray's got to deal with all the bullshit that he had to. Well, and all Michael Murray wants to do is go for a morning jog, you know, hang out with his family, and maybe do some Muay Thai on the heavy bag. That's why we got Fakumram. Because that was Michael Murray's revenge against all of us. That was his greatest revenge, and I love him for it. Like, that's like when that character came out, I told people like, oh, I'm playing the shit out of this character. He was made with love. He was made with love and passion. I love this move, and the fact that it was untouched is the best. Like, the absolute best. That I was like, oh, we gave this man a 17 frame electric with a homing property. Like I said, I knew. I was like, you know, Michael Murray's coming for y'all. He's tired of all these ats. Plus 6, 18 frames plus 6.
It also perfectly matches with his tracking down back 4 and his insanely fast running 3. If you block a back forward 4 or running 3, good luck trying to step and dive the option select. Oh yeah, and it's a normal hit launcher. What the fuck, man? What the fucking fuck? These puns aren't worth it.
But it'd be like 18 frame plus 6 combo starter with good tracking, a huge hitbox, reaches far as shit. And it's not just like plus 6, it's like plus 6 you get knocked on your ass. So you've got like the animation to deal with too. Like if you're a very visual person and you're one of those people that goes by eyesight, and you know those moves where they have like the guard crush properties, but you can really react like well before you're done crumbling over. It messes with people. And if you're an audio person too, you hear the Rock Lee coming in after he drops the weights, the whole so when it hits you, like it, dude, the move is incredible. It's so visually pleasing. I love hitting people with it. When I get hit by it, I just laugh because otherwise I cry. But you know, it's all you can do. Just like boom. Oh, all my life is gone. Back one. Like, how can you give somebody a jet upper electric? Because that's what it is. It's jet upper electric.
Yeah.
Like, how? How does that make it past Mishima Star?
Dude, he's just fucking drinking on sake or some shit.
You know, that might have been it. Mike was probably like, you know, hey buddy, you had a little bit to drink? Here's the move list.
You know Fane's back one, right? Really fast, interrupting bloke with a shoulder and counter hit, but risky because it's punishable. Now let's go back to Tekken 5, where it's 8 frames and is safe. We're starting to get to a really absurd parts of the list now, and we've got over 40 moves to go. Strap in, the ride only gets wilder from here. Brian's goddamn taunt. Some people may have guessed this move would be on here because of how powerful it has the potential to be, but others may have guessed otherwise because of how much skill it takes to perfect. Fuck your skill barrier, if one person can do it consistently, it's on the list. Now you may be thinking, but I choose to take this move from Tekken 5, where you have extra leniency to taunt jet upper. Again, fuck your skill barrier. I'm putting Tekken 6's taunt on the list because it has absurd amounts of tracking and is a tech roll punish. On infinite stages, Brian has a reactable setup. Stop the combo after up forward 3 and wait to see what the opponent does. If they stay down or back roll, you can float them with down back 2 for a reset. If they tech roll, you have time to taunt and, well, jet upper. Either way, it's an infinite loop, and yes, it takes an absurd amount of skill, but it is reactable and there's nothing the opponent can do about it. Think you're counter-picking Tekken 6 Brian by picking infinite? Think again.
Marduk in Dark Resurrection was a beast. He wasn't as complete as he is in Tekken 7, but his damage output, Okazeme and range could be overwhelming. But what made Marduk so insane was his ridiculous movement. Yeah, movement. And that's because of Marduk's cornered beast. His down back 3+4 retreated and created distance at amazing speed, and just as quickly as Marduk started up, he could either cancel with a duck jab to block safely or into a tackle. And just as quickly as Marduk created that space, he runs it back and ends with a 2-frame break spear tackle. It's outright obnoxious as it lets Marduk immediately escape and then create offense. It's undoubtedly the biggest reason why Marduk is top 10 in DR. This marks the first point in our list where we're saying goodbye to a game. I think it says a lot that the strongest DR move on the list is actually a form of movement. But don't get it twisted, there are stronger moves than Corner Beast in this game, but weren't included as they were stronger in other games such as Brian's Taunt or your Electrics and Hell Sweeps. As a more balanced and fleshed out Tekken 5, Dark Resurrection is fast paced, refined, core Tekken at its finest, and while it's not perfect, it's rightly celebrated for having the clearest vision in the series. You knew this one was going to be on here sooner or later. I've got deja vu. A 12 frame, high crushing, safe special mid that extends to a full launch of meter. It had a great hitbox and great whiff recovery, meaning it was great to just throw out there and maybe you get lucky and kill the opponent if they did almost anything except stay away and block. Nothing more to say, a very silly broken move that got nerfed a fair deal midway through Season 3. Remember how I mentioned at the very start of this list that Ogre is basically eating from a smorgasbord of other Tekken characters' moves? Well, in Tekken 7, Leroy has a smorgasbord of his own, but he put Memphis barbecue sauce over all the meats. Leroy has Brian's Orbital, but it's faster, has absurd whiff recovery, and is better on block. Leroy really whisked a man like Brian's crepes and did it better. Thank God Namco took the sauce from him. Thinner down to tracking, high crush, neutral on hit, minus 13 on block, forces crouch on hit, great damage, great range. It doesn't sound like one of the most broken moves in Tekken history, but its sheer accessibility makes it a nightmare to contend with in neutral. Unlike Dragunov's running 2, which can be fairly easily step left and harshly punished, there's no option selecting down 2. You can only block or low parry, whichever is better for your character. That's when you're susceptible to his exceptionally strong mids. No low puts you in the blender better than down 2. Okay, I lied. There is one low that's even better in neutral than Dragunov's down 2, and that is Jack's full crouch down Mach 1 from Tekken 6.
This move was a 12 frame low, did about 10% life, minus 2 on block, but the super crazy thing was it was plus 9 on hit. So during Tekken 6, I was still a player who only really competed at the local level. I was young, I had a lot to learn, but I really loved the game and I was super motivated to improve. And one of the things I would do is I would watch the Avoiding the Puddle podcasts hosted by Eris, and he would bring on all these really great players, get their perspective on the game. And there's an episode where he interviewed the American Tekken legend Jop, and Jop started talking about how he couldn't believe how good this move was, full crouch down back 1. And one of the things he loved about it was during the animation, Jack kind of like turns his head to the side, almost as if he's looking at you like, can you believe this shit's plus 9? Like, why do I have this? I thought that like observation was so funny and it stuck with me forever. Every time I do this move, I notice Jack doing the side glance. It happens really quick, you gotta look for it. It happens on P1, he looks right at you. And that's a callback to the T6 days with the plus 9 full crouch down back 1.
The only saving grace is that it requires being in crouch to execute, meaning it's much more appealing to use Jack's regular down back 1 when trying to advance and force a mix-up in somebody's face. But if an expert Jack player like Anakin could condition somebody, rounds can be washed in seconds. Sticking with Tekken 6 for a moment, we have a move that's even more spammable than Dragunov's down 2 or Jack's full crouch down Mach 1. Bob's down 1 had virtually no downsides. It was a high crushing mid poke that hit grounded,
had a deceptively large hitbox, was neutral on block, plus 7 on hit, and guaranteed a free hit when it landed as a counter hit. It's one of those if in doubt moves that you can just throw out with great potential reward and practically no risk when used at the correct range and timing. What's gonna happen if it gets blocked? You get punished? Heaven forbid you lose your turn? No, this is Tekken 6 fucking Bob, mate. You're lucky you blocked Bob's brain dead down one. You think you get a reward? Your reward is the fact you didn't get slapped down to the floor. Now you go back to neutral and keep trying to find a way to beat Tekken 6 fucking Bob, mate, when he can keep spamming brain dead moves like down one with no downside or risk. Fuck Tekken 6 Bob. We're finally here. The parry to end all parries. I'm not even going to explain why this move is on the list, I'm just going to roll the footage and let it explain itself. Man, the 30s is just full of ridiculous lows, isn't it? In vanilla Tekken 7, Brian's hatchet kick was, well, a counter hit launcher. Still minus 13 on block, still with great tracking, but if it counter hits you, bam, launch. I'm honestly getting writer's block trying to find analogies or jokes that properly encapsulate how fucking dumb these moves are. This move was fucking dumb. Let's keep going. Let me tell you all a story of how Namco is homogenizing and ruining Tekken in some ways. Back in Tekken 6, Devil Jin had a stable juggle which you're seeing on screen now, but he also had an extremely tight, near frame perfect, higher damage variant for mid-screen and wall juggles that required a perfectly timed crouch dash Thunder Gobfist. In Tekken 7, the screw system removed this juggle choice, but instead Devil Jin players could perfectly time a Thunder Gobfist at a wall when the opponent was slouching to get grounded damage. In Season 4, Namco gave Devil Jin a move that just does it for him. Devil Jin's back to 1 is not only a multi-use move that serves as a wall carry, mid-screen ender and a wall ender, but it also eliminates another difficulty barrier for no reason. It gets rid of something that made this character special. That's not the reason it's on this list, it's on the list because this move makes Devil Jin the most broken character in the game on Forgotten Realm, but I felt telling this story was more poignant. The pure vitriol I have for Geese's mid-parry cannot be understated. I don't care that it's launch if you paid it. This move does things that shouldn't be possible in Tekken. You can't put Geese in Okuzemi situations because he can buffer a mid-parry on Wake Up. Whack that bad boy out and there goes over half of your health bar if he has a meter or there's a wall in your general vicinity. You try to put Geese in an Okuzemi situation on Wake Up? Ah son, you got juked. When Geese is waking up, you're in his Okuzemi. The pure risk reward to go for a mid against Geese with immediate timing is in Geese's favour, and that's something that no other character can do. Even Rage Arts takes 6 frames to gain invincibility. Geese, fucking 2 frames. The fact this move got indirectly buffed because of Geese's Maximo standing launcher that he got in Season 3 fills me with even more hatred. Fuck Geese, fuck fucking Geese. Let's move on. Remember a little bit ago when I mentioned Heihachi's downforward 1-2 being a 13 frame launch punisher? Well, in Tekken 5 Vanilla, Heihachi had as good as a 10 frame launcher. His right punch to Demon Breath was a 10 frame natural combo that led to a guaranteed Demon Uppercut or Stomp for over 40% of your health. Oh, and Demon Breath was safe in Tekken 5, so there was nothing stopping Heihachi from just throwing that bad boy out all day. vicious character in T5.
The Art of Deleting on Life Bar in Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Co-written by Edward Gordonian and Christinas Monteres. With special thanks to Tiger Jacksonia. Step 1. Enter Rage with your capoeira character of choice. There are many opportunities to enter Rage in Tekken Tag Tournament 2, so you should have ample opportunities. Step 2. Input the following command. Back +1, then 4. Step 3. If you are able to visibly confirm the attack connected as a counter hit, press 3 + 4 to continue the combination. Step 4. From prior practice with your capoeira character and your secondary character, perform an optimal floating attack combination, factoring in axes, the proportions of your hapless opponent, and the most effective way to ferry your opponent by force towards the wall. With effective optimization, this can lead to a perfect obliteration of your opponent and sharp, overwhelming victory of the round. Thank you for listening.
Good God, the accessibility Geese has off of his standing 2 is beyond absurd. A safe, special mid 15 frame string starter with a pretty good hitbox that without meter leads to a 30 damage knockdown string, and with meter 50% and up. On block without meter, Geese has a ton of options between unsafe mids and very safe highs, while on block with meter, Geese can basically put you in a barrage of plus frames and mix-ups one after the other, and if you guess right, you just live. If you guess wrong, again, you're probably losing half of your health. Without standing 2, Geese would be another Akuma, a highly specialized character that's taking huge risks to kill you. Standing 2 is what makes the risk reward that Geese takes be so strongly in his favor from Season 3 onward. One bar with Akuma takes half your health at best, or puts you in a risky mix-up at worst. One bar with Geese takes over half your health at best, or gives Geese an extra 2 not so risky mix-ups to take half of your health at worst. I'm sure you can just hold back, take all the lows, and perfectly defend against a quarter circle back 2 mix-up if you have perfectly trained reactions and the connection allows it, but to actually shut down Geese's offense requires taking some risks to interrupt it by low parrying, using a power crush or parry, trying to duck a high or sidestep, and so on. Taking these options to try and regain advantage against Geese is when you're at the highest risk to getting clipped by a mid when you try to block low, or a counter hit low launcher when you try to power crush. And all of this starts from Geese's standing 2. With 1 bar of meter, Geese has access to so many mix-up options that you're not playing a coin flip or rock, paper, scissors. You're going down a decision tree where Geese has every opportunity to condition you and pressure you, and one bad guess could lead to your end. If you choose not to interact at all and just hold back, Geese can just destroy your shins and basically never give up his turn. It's unbelievably toxic and something that no other character in the game has access to on the same scale that Geese does. This next entry is a bit of a strange one. In Tekken, when you block a running slash kick, you're heavily stunned and your opponent will have enough plus frames, i.e. more than 10, to enforce a mix-up. However, you're in what's known as a force guard state. In other words, you're able to perform 2 options during your block stun. Block standing or block crouching. However, in Tekken 3, this did not exist. So, running slash kicks would lead to, guaranteed follow-ups on block. Launches. This was extremely toxic, needless to say, and it also meant that True Ogre was actually an extremely bad character. Slash kick hit True Ogre on the ground, which meant that as soon as you knocked True Ogre down, you simply did a slash kick, unless if the Ogre 2 player had good wake-up timing, it would either hit grounded, letting you repeat the process, or would catch True Ogre's wake-up and lead to guaranteed follow-ups that repeated the process. Thankfully, Namco fixed this OP move just in time for Tag 1, as that game's competitive integrity would have likely been highly damaged if this was carried over. We're almost in the last quarter of this list, which means we're going to be seeing the big guns from this point on. And that means it's time for one of the strongest moves across Tekken's history, the Hell Sweep. An unseeable low that was launch punishable on block but led to very high damage on hit. The Hell Sweep epitomizes the coin flip style of gameplay, where you attempt to brute force mix-ups on your opponent with skewed risk reward. The mid option is usually next to no risk with moderate reward, while the low option is both high risk and high reward. Because the reward averages out to be more advantageous than the risk, this style has led to the machinist having tremendous and consistent success over Tekken's history. With so many different games and different hell sweeps, the only question is, which one was the best and is most deserving to be put on this list? I came to the conclusion that Jin's hell sweep from Tekken Tag Tournament is the single strongest in the series. Jin and Devil Jin has typically had the stronger hell sweeps, as in most games they lead to full launches on clean hit. While the damage potential is a little higher in Dark Resurrection and Tekken 7, Jin's Tag 1 hell sweep has a distinct advantage. Excellent Okizeme, or the option to end with an Electric Wind Godfist Ender for a free tag out. It's easier to set up the hell sweep from advantageous positions in the movement heavy Tag 1. Jin's standard juggle enders all have minimal pushback, while wave dashing is at its strongest, which gives Jin massive advantage and ample time to get back up in the opponent's face and react to whichever wake up option they inevitably choose with a deadly 50-50 or punish. Devil Jin's Dark Resurrection hell sweep takes a close second, as it does almost all the same thing Tag 1's hell sweep does, but without the extra insurance of a free tag out. Sticking with Tekken Tag Tournament for our next entry, but specifically for arcade release. Now you might be wondering, what move could possibly be overpowered in the arcade release but was patched for console? Well, rather than explain, I think it'd be more fun to show. Yeah, this ground throw, it's unbreakable. This is known as the Armor King handcuffs. If Armor King gets you with a ground throw on the side, he flips you over and has just enough plus frames to dash forward and ground throw you again. In other words, it's a timer scam. The handcuffs are perfectly set up with Armor King's crouch dash 1, and if it has a life advantage, say a long, slow goodbye to the round. Okay, so remember everything that I said 4 entries ago about Geese's standing 2? Well, take all that, but instead of it being for a 15 frame special mid, change that to a 14 frame true mid, and that's Geese's back 3-2. I don't want to spend too much time repeating myself, but it's just as OP for all the same reasons. The faster frame, the slightly better hitbox, the fact it's hit confirmable, and the fact it's a knee make it a little bit more overpowered despite standing 2's higher damage potential and extra safety. There's similar moves that fit almost the same role though, so let's quickly move on because I'm getting a little sick of Geese. You may question why Prototype Jack, a below average character in Tekken 2's meta, would be on this list with a throw that's low damage. Well, let me show you what happens if you get caught by the throw.
Fight!
Now you understand. Yeah, we're getting to the silly part of the list now.
You win!
Steve's Rage Drive. In seasons 2 and 3, this thing was a nightmare.
Man, when I saw that Blue Sonic thing, oh, that was ridiculous. And it's, you know, they nerfed it a couple times, I think 2 times since then. 2 damage reductions, but it still does fine damage. It still does a ton of wall carry too. It still does everything you want it to. It's a 14 frame Rage Drive that's practically impossible to step. And you could use it in Oki and it'll fully pick up opponents after like a forward 1 spike.
Steve should never die on Rage because he should always be throwing this move out.
It's like many other rage drives in that it can clip an opponent and win a round in the best case, or gives an advantageous situation in, well, practically the worst case, because who's ever gonna whiff this move?
And a lot of times too, when Steve is put into rage, he turned from being a counter hit only monster into this guy has a fucking Desert Eagle with a golden bullet in there right now, and he could go off at any moment. I am scared for my life to even move or throw out a jab, because that at 14 frames, it's far too dangerous with the range it has. And oh, it's good. It's good.
Steve almost always has an opportunity to steal momentum back every single round with this rage drive, and that's why it's so high up on this list. A ridiculous move, Nina's up forward 1 is 21 frames, or technically 20 if you input 1 just after the up forward. It's used as a spike ender in juggles and guarantees a free stomp after. If the opponent tries to move at all to minimize the stomp damage, down for 1 picks up for a float juggle and, you guessed it, up forward 1 spike ender to reset the situation. Also, the move has a ridiculous hitbox, ridiculous priority, is +1 on block and +9 on hit. It might not sound as insanely good as some of the prior entries on this list, but its main appeal is how purely spammable it is in neutral. Trust me, if you weren't a 5.0 player, you're glad you didn't have to deal with 5.0 Nina and this move. Tekken 4 Jin, we meet once again. Just making the top 20 is Jin's LLRK, and you might be surprised at this move placed lower than the Hell Sweep. In Tekken 4, it doesn't even lead to a full launch. But there's one simple explanation. In Tekken 4, it's -12 on block. No stagger, no nothing, it's -12. You can't launch it unless you low parry it. We're top 20, everybody. Let's move on. You thought Bob was OP in Tekken 6 BR, where he dominated EVO 2011? Well, he was even worse in vanilla Tekken 6. And yes, his Hell Sweep is even worse than Jin's ever was. It gave a mini combo in the open, but if it got to the wall, the damage was eye-watering. It also tracked to Bob's right, and Bob can mix it up with some of the nastiest mids in the series. We'll get to that soon. When you think of the most iconic OP moves from the series, this may be one of the first moves you think of. Ogre's Waning Moon from Tekken 3 is a 12-frame unbreakable launching throw. A tricky input to perform quickly, but insane speed and scariness. Ogre also has a multitude of juggle follow-ups which lead to Great Okazeme. It has the dubious honour of being the highest ranking throw on this list, as well as the highest ranking move from Tekken 3 on this list, and for very, very good reason. Oh my god, Geese, stop appearing on this list please. Stop being so broken. At least this time we're talking about a move that Namco actually decided to nerf. Geese's Dark Jab led to a guaranteed forward 1 on counter hit, which could lead to popping meter and the choice of either a guaranteed 50 plus damage, a launching mix-up unless you can fuzzy it on hit, or potentially a wall bounce for outrageous amounts of damage. Off of a 10 frame special mid. Imagine if Namco didn't nerf this move and it still worked in seasons 3 and 4. Full launch of a counter hit Dark Jab every time. Horrifying. Hey guys, number 16 on the top 100 overpowered moves in Tekken history list is Brian's Snake Edge. Now before you call me a scrub with beyond lethargic reactions, there's a very good reason this move is on the list. In Tekken 5, for a couple of frames, players cannot block during the end of their tech row animation. What does that mean? Well, it means Snake Edge tech roll catches. Sounds pretty toxic, right? Well, that's not the reason this move is so high up on the list. The real reason is because at the wall, after a wall juggle, the opponent is face down and doesn't have time to quick stand and block low. And they can't tech roll and block low either because of the timing. So, the Snake Edge hits for guaranteed damage, or they tech roll and it launches. It's absurd levels of wall damage that immediately leads into ridiculous Wargi thanks to Brian's insane Tekken 5 taunt. Good luck staying alive if Brian has you at the wall. You will never be more afraid of Snake Edge in your life. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. The most iconic move in Tekken, the Electric Wind Godfist, makes a shocking entry into the list at number 15. But which Electric Wind Godfist would it be? Well, in my humble opinion, this is even easier to decide than the Hell Sweep. Jin's Electric Wind Godfist from Tekken Tag Tournament is the best in this series. That's right, Jin from Tag 1 has the best Electric and Hell Sweep in the same game. There's one simple reason for this. It's a special mid when tag buffered. That's right, a 14 frame special mid tag launcher. The trade-off is that the tag launcher variant have the same properties on block as the regular Wind Godfist, but in Tag 1, that was safe anyway. Because of this, it's hard to even call the regular Electric and the Tag Electric the same move, but because Tag 1 Jin has access to both, which are both equally strong for different reasons, I put them on the list. Again, Jin was the strongest character in Tekken Tag Tournament because he had so many rock solid tools. Back with Leroy once again. We're seeing so many OP characters in the top 20 onwards. Tekken 4 Jin, Tekken 6 Bob, Tekken 3 Ogre, Season 1 and 2 Geese, Tekken 5 Brian, Tekken Tag 1 Jin, and now Leroy yet again. This time it is down 1+2, which was a 17 frame ground hitting safe mid counter hit launcher that was +6 on hit and neutral on block. You want to talk about risk and reward? This move's risk reward is one of the best for a mid of its speed and hitbox in the series history. A terrifying move that truly badly needed a nerf and got one very quickly. The most broken move in Tekken 6 is probably to no surprise on the vanilla arcade version. And now you know that, it probably surprises you even less that it's a move that this fat fuck has. Yes, it's Bob's down forward 2, which in Tekken 6.0 is a normal hit launcher. Bob's down forward 2 is safe, and it's 15 frames and has an incredible hitbox. It's unbelievably spammable. I mean, put it this way, Bob dominated EVO 2011 and the rest of Tekken 6 without this move being a normal hit launcher. So imagine how bad it'd be if it still was. Before Tekken 3, it's hard to say that Tekken was a truly 3D game when it operated as more of a 2.5D game. 3D graphics sure, but practically on a two-dimensional plane with just a handful of exceptions. Side rolling, Heihachi's runaway in Tekkens 1 and 2, Yoshimitsu's spin that cost life in Tekken 2, and Kazuya's shadow step in Tekken 2. This was the only sidestep in the game at the time, and while it didn't operate like a sidestep from later games, it was ridiculously effective. In a game where the concept of tracking moves had never been necessary to consider until now, Kazuya's shadow step was truly game-breaking. And if it didn't get any worse, the input for his shadow step was the first part of his perfect wind Godfist, which is delayable. In other words, if Kazuya sidesteps a move, he can whiff punish it in 13 frames with a wind Godfist. Kazuya was truly in a league of his own in Tekken 2 for many reasons, but access to his shadow step, when mastered, was the greatest. This might amaze some people, but the original Wind Godfist from Tekken 1 is stronger than the Electric Wind Godfist has ever been since. Why is that? Well, it's not the same plain old Wind Godfist that's jab punishable and hide from future games. No, this Wind Godfist is safe, and it's a fucking mid. And it's a touch of death. And it's still 14 frames. That's why. I can't think of anything funny to say. It's a fucking safe mid touch of death that's 14 frames. And it's not even in the top 10. What the hell is left? Well, we've got 10 moves and 6 Tekken games left between them. How many of the top 10 can you guess? Pause the video and take a moment to think of all the moves that are left. Write them down if you like. You'll almost definitely be able to guess a couple, but can you guess them all? And can you guess which move will be number 1? Let's find out. I'll tell you what's left. More fucking Leroy moves, that's what. Barely reaching the top 10 is Leroy's 1-1, 1+2, 1. A 10 frame natural counter hit combo that was partially hit confirmable and therefore safe, and could lead to over 60 damage or even more at the wall. The move that won Evo Japan kicks off our top 10. I know at the start of this list I said that I wouldn't include the same move twice from two different games, but Steve's down forward 2 from Tekken 5 is a very different move to his down forward 2 from Tekken 7. Steve's whole archetype is that he's a counter hit monster, but he doesn't have quick launches like a generic hop kick or down forward 2. Except in Tekken 5, not only does he have the best generic down forward 2 in that game, but it has some extra bells and whistles too. Cancel into sway to try and make your opponent whiff when they think it's their turn? Check. Cancel into duck for high crushing frames, extended duck mix-ups and max damage juggles? Check. Have a second hit that's also safe and launches crouching opponents? Fucking check. And it has a hitbox that's so meaty it's comparable to Jack's down forward 2. This move signifies a point in the list where we're shifting from situationally strong moves to straight up game breaking moves. This is where things get really serious, and it doesn't get much more serious than the original Tekken's twin pistons, a 13 frame mid-safe natural hit launcher. And in Tekken 1 that means 90 to 100% damage juggles. If the risk reward meta gets any more lopsided than this, the scales are going to break through the Earth's crust. One of the most brutally unfair moves from Tekken 1 all the way through to Tag 1. Back with Tekken 7, and for the final time in this list, back with Leroy. Tekken has some standardized, well-established, unspoken rules when it comes to creating characters' move lists, and these rules aren't typically broken. No moves faster than 10 frames, the exceptions all have very unusual features such as extremely small hitboxes for example, no safe lows, again some exceptions but they're few in number and are all very weak in damage to compensate. Another of these rules is the Magic 4 rule. You can probably tell where I'm going with this. Characters may have counter hit launches that are either 13 frames and homing, or 11 to 13 frames and aren't homing with other strong moves to compensate. The rule is that these Magic 4 launches are all high. Every single one, even Steve's, which is a punch. And then Leroy appeared and categorically broke that rule with his 12 frame counter hit launching mid back 1+2. This move breaks the game in so many ways that I can't even begin to explain, but to give a very small example, there are some mix-up options such as Julia's Windroll and Kunimitsu's back turn mix that can all be option selected on block by a 12 frame mid. Now imagine if that 12 frame mid also netted the player a full launch. His move single-handedly shuts down characters' approach and mix-up games as it has no weaknesses. How do you beat it? You can't duck it, you can't punish it, you usually can't interrupt it in most cases. All you can do is delay your timing, which puts the advantage firmly in Leroy's court, until later on where the hitbox got nerfed. It is by all definitions a game-breaking move and it should never have existed in the first place. The last few moves on this list move past the realm of overpowered and into the realm of complete broken stupidity. Next is a move that I'm sure many people predicted to be around this point in the list. King and Armor King's down forward 1 from the original Tekken. If you don't know, this 14 frame mid elbow with a great hitbox forces crouch on hit. Sounds normal enough, right? Well, when the opponent blocks this move, they face a considerable amount of block stun. Okay, that's pretty dumb, getting a free mix up on block for a really fast mid poke. Yeah, that's pretty bloody dumb, but maybe not worthy of being in the top 10. No, this move is a launcher on block. Yeah, during that block stun, if you attack the opponent, it connects as an aerial state. This leads to 50% damage with King and even more with Armor King. Again, this is clearly an oversight on the developer's part, but holy fuck is it a pretty big fat fuck up on the old fuck upometer. A move you'd rather get hit by than block. It's absurd. And you know the worst part? This isn't even the last Tekken 1 move on the list. We have 5 moves from 5 games left. pause the video now and try to think of what 5 moves from these 5 games could be the top 5 most OP moves in Tekken's long history. Think you got it? Let's find out. We're visiting Tekken 2 for the last time in this list, and we're actually back with Bruce. Is 1-2 down +4 3 and 2 down +4 3 are high low mid and high low mid strings, where if the low hits, the mid is guaranteed after, and Bruce also gets a follow-up. So what's broken about that? Well, if you block any of the high jabs, you can't block the low. It's guaranteed. On block. That's about 40% of your health bar gone for blocking a jab. There's literally nothing stopping Bruce from just backdashing, doing the Gatling combination we mentioned a bit earlier, anytime an opponent gets remotely close, and if your opponent tries beating it with fast moves, Bruce can go back to his also broken jab stream that does 40% damage on block. This is essentially King and Armor King's downfall 1 from Tekken 1, but instead of trying not to block a downfall 1, you're trying not to block a freaking jab that has a block confirmable guaranteed follow-up. It's almost certainly a developer oversight, but it makes Bruce one of the most toxic characters in Tekken history. In 4th place, and the most OP move in the original Tekken, is a move I don't think many people have even heard of before, which will likely surprise a lot of you, but let me try to explain my reasoning to you all. In 4th place is Heihachi's Hell Sweep string. Wait, didn't we cover Hell Sweeps a while back? Yeah, we sure did. This is a whole different beast. Why, you ask? Well, this Hell Sweep isn't just safe. It's a mix-up on block. The Hell Sweep doesn't stagger, and Heihachi can either immediately perform another Hell Sweep after, or go for a safe mid, or finish the string and make it unsafe without a big damage read. And he can do this mix-up twice, as he can transition to the mid after 1, 2, or 3 Hell Sweeps. That means that the Hell Sweep string isn't a 50-50 mix-up on block, it's a decision tree on block that looks like this. And not just that, but if you guess wrong on below, the damage can be anywhere in the range of 40 to 70% of your life. And it's all safe. All of it. You have to block the Hell Sweep, guess right through the whole decision tree, and you get no reward for it. Your reward is survival for another 10 frames probably. This is by far the strongest move in the fuckfest that was the original Tekken. Not the most polished game by any means, and it's probably fortunate it never really had a pro scene that could optimize the game at its time. But now, we have 3 moves left from 3 different games. Are you still on target with your guesses? Let's find out which move got the bronze. Taking home a respectable bronze finish is a move I have no respect for. Now you might be wondering, what move could possibly be more broken than some of the ludicrous entries we've just seen? In Tekken 7, it's not a Leroy move. Well, it's not a move. It's a form of movement. That's right, number 3 on this list are the jumps that Akuma, Elisa, and Geese have access to in Tekken 7. This is the most broken move in Tekken 7, and it hasn't seen any signs of being remotely patched. 2D jumps have been terrorizing Tekken 7 for years, allowing 2D players to crush lows, mids, and highs alike in situations they really shouldn't be allowed to, and then punishing these crush moves with a jumping move that has so much advantage on block that it creates a forced range 0 mix-up, and on hit, can lead to near death. There's a very simple reason why these 2D jumps are so broken, and it's not even the game engine's fault, although that certainly doesn't help. The reasons 2D jumps are so broken is because in their respective 2D games there are moves, features, mechanics, whatever, that are specifically designed to counter aerial movements. You know what they're called? Anti-airs. Tekken has had to deal with problems like this since moon jumping back in Tekken 2, and so players have had to lab meticulous solutions and create their own anti-airs with limited success. Sure, you may have a demon flip option select on block, but do you have a consistent anti-air where they just raw jump over you at the wall when it's supposed to be your Kazemi? Because I sure don't. I don't care about the meter, I don't care about the damage, I don't care about the invincibility. I hate 2D characters because there's no consistent way to defend against their bullshit, and most notably their bullshit 2D jumps, because while their aerial movement was imported from their original games anti-airs were not, nor were any new and consistent anti-airs introduced, and that's a fucking huge problem. Now though, we have 2 moves left from Tekken 4 and Tekken 5 respectively. Veteran Tekken players may well be able to guess the top 2 now, but can you guess which game our runner-up move is from? It's from Tekken 5. That's right, the runner-up on this list is Steve's 3-1-1 from Tekken 5. This move has a very unique feature where if you hold 3 while executing 1-1, it stuns the opponent on either counter hit or a side or back turn hit. And since this move comes out of a sway, that happens a lot. But that's not enough, the stun is an infinite loop. Steve's 3-1-1 is the easiest infinite in Tekken history, and it's safe! In fact, the infinite loop was so easy and notorious that it was immediately banned from EVO, and practically all other major and local tournaments alike. Not that it really stopped people from performing touches of death with Steve.
Round 2. Fight!
People might be surprised that this move is number 2 on the list. It is a little tricky to set up, and it's only a counter hit launcher if it doesn't hit on the side. But the opponent cannot mess up a single time. One whiff could cost him an entire round against Steve. In Tekken 5, one whiff can consistently cost you your entire health bar. That hasn't happened in any Tekken game since Tekken 2, and it does not consistently happen in any Tekken game after Tekken 5. I don't care about your perfectly placed Rage Max Beta Howard stage juggles either, they don't consistently happen. But in tournaments, Steve consistently and regularly performed touches of death on opponents across the world. Tekken 5 Steve is the only character in modern history to perform touches of death at any time, at will, and it's not even hard. This move is the only time in Tekken history that a single move, not a character, but just one single move, was banned from Tekken tournaments. And that's still not enough to bag this move the number 1 spot. I think we all know it. Let's see the final entry on this long list. Jin's Just Frame Laser Scraper, without a doubt the most infamous move in Tekken history. I can't even begin to go into detail about why this move is so infamously broken, but I do have a friend who can.
Tekken 4, they made it so the Just Frame, the Laser Scraper, you could hold down right punch, so you could do back forward 2-1, down 2, and if you hold the 2 all the way, becomes unblockable, right? It's like a blue spark. It comes out kind of really slow if you hold it, but it becomes unblockable. So the glitch of some sort, what we call it, where we kind of found a way to make that move, that unblockable, come out at instant speed as fast as the regular one, which if you just let it rip, which is back forward 2-1, down 2, that normally is just blockable. But we were able to kind of like merge those two and glitch it to make it where the unblockable version came out as fast as the quick version. So normal characters can sidewalk it, right? So if I decide to do anything besides the fast one and they start sidewalking, they'll sidestep it. Or it might be -11, right? So you can squeeze in a little sidestep down jab or like a sidestep jab. So kind of that's another countermeasure. Some characters have reversals, like Paul, Law, so they can kind of deal with it that way. The rest of the cast can sidestep. So yeah, those are some of the defense options against that. But at high level, we're not really actually doing the move a lot. Like we're really just kind of like playing around the move, or we're setting our game up with the move, with the threat of the move, and then we're making our opponent like kind of have to deal with the guessing. On hit, you get hit by the first two. The first 2 hits are guaranteed. So that's where the kind of like mix up comes in. So like, if you can do the fast one and you try to sidestep, you're gonna get hit. If you're hesitating on sidestepping, the just frame is gonna hit you, launch you, right? And if you try to sidewalk it, I'll just do the fast one every time, and it'll stop you from sidewalking. You know, so it's kind of like a meta game within the move. So it's not completely busted, but it was busted enough where made you have to like kind of guess or deal with the move, right? Deal with this mid move and its options afterwards. It's like there's a few characters that can kind of jump and like escape getting fully launched, and they get like a little mini launch. Okay, and then also on counter hit, you can just do all three, and it's a launcher. So that's another part of it. So like you don't want to contest with the laser scraper also, because you don't want to get counter hit where you can't escape at all, and then it's just like a launch. So you have to deal on that end of it also. So there's like a whole meta game involved with that move alone. So that is why I think it's #1 most OP move in Tekken of all time.
Oh my god, we made it. Before we finish, here's some stats showing the number of moves that came from each game in the series. And now, stats showing which characters were featured the most. And finally, some honourable mentions that didn't quite make the list. Pause the video if you want to read these. Thank you so much for watching. This video has been a labour of love over months and months of research, script writing, recording, interviewing and editing. Thank you to everyone who helped with research and everyone who cameoed through the list. I appreciate it so much. If you watched the entire video, thank you, you're insane. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I will only say, feel free to subscribe as I have made and will continue to make tons more unique and original Tekken and FGC and hope maybe in the future just general gaming videos like this. But maybe not quite as long, at least for a while. And feel free to check me out on Patreon if you'd like to support my work. I'm planning on moving to my own place in the future, which would give me a lot more time to work on content, which will mean more videos more often, hopefully. Thank you very much for watching, take care, and see you next time.